What's up, everyone? How are you doing? And welcome back to another episode of the Foreigner Podcast, the podcast where we keep our eyes open, ears open, hearts open, and discuss everything related to being a foreign exchange student. I'm your host, Andre Günther, and I thank you a lot for listening to this episode again. If it is your first time here, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes to not miss any more of my weekly episodes. Also, leave a positive review so that I can grow my audience and educate more people on the topic and the benefits of such an exchange program. Now, here we go again with another episode, and as I just said, there are many benefits to completing a foreign exchange program. And I do a lot of episodes on those benefits and those opportunities and what it all can bring for you. But today I want to talk about something a little bit different. I want to talk about something rather sad or more difficult topics. So, as an introduction, lots of exchange students, they document their whole experience on YouTube. Usually they start by making like one episode a week, and then there's like maybe once a month, and then it's one every 2 months, and that's the usual behavior. And I mean, I wrote a blog, so I had the same behavior. But still, nevertheless, I like to watch those video diaries of other people being on their exchange because, I mean, they make me happy when I think back to my time and how I saw all of that, and I can see myself in them because we all face equal or similar tasks and problems, and we solve them on our own ways, which sometimes are completely different and sometimes the exact same way that I solved them. So I really enjoy watching all of those videos and just being in my own thoughts about the time that I spent there. But of these exchange students that do those videos, now here comes the sad part, there are some of them who do not finish their year. They get sent home early or they leave early. And of course, if they started a video diary, they need to make a video about that as well. They can't just stop it. So there are also some videos out there where they say why their exchange year failed or why they were sent home early and stuff like that. And that always kind of is a bummer, but I watched those videos as well, and I thought that after watching a lot of them, I saw the same problems occurring again, and lots of people is not representative, but a few people being sent home because of the same problems. So I gathered those biggest problems, and now I'm going to try to explain them to you and to try to give you tools that you can solve those problems or avoid them. Because I can't give you the one solution, but I can give you tools and ideas that you can use on your own to solve these problems for you. And that's already where I will go into the structure of these episodes. Well, I'm not gonna have a two-parted an episode with two parts. This is just gonna be the part of how not to go home, and then, of course, the quote and the item of the episode. And with no further ado, I would say, here we go, and we should jump right into that. And now, the first problem that I found, they're not in a particular order, so it's not like the number one is the most popular or the most common problem, but I just put them in order that I found them online. So I watched a lot of videos, so I can't just give credit to every single one. I'm not going to go into specific details. I just feel like I watched YouTube, the entire YouTube of exchange students. So yeah, and I just gathered meta problems. Like I didn't select like one occasion, but I compared them to another and found out the meta problem, because everyone's exchange year is different. So everyone's going to have some variation of those problems. And yours will not be the exact same one another exchange student encounters. So that is why I just took the meta kind of aspect of it. And now the first one is that thinking that changing your host family results in going home. And I can't really understand that problem, but it occurred quite a lot that people thought, oh no, if I change my exchange family, then my host family, then my exchange organization is going to send me home. So I cannot. So I have to push through it. And that's at least for the biggest or the bigger organizations, not really a problem. Like I can see that some organizations which are really small and therefore have a good price because they like try to get the people who can't afford a big organization, and because they don't get a lot of money, they can't really build up a lot. And it could be that they don't have any other families anywhere close. So if you choose like a really small niche one, then it might be possible that not being able to stay in your host family is going to get you sent home. But with the bigger organizations, that should really not be a problem at all. So don't be scared of that. But I mean, in bigger organizations, it's okay to change your host family. They are really trying to do that. In AFS right now, we have a call going around to all the AFS volunteers for students who had to change their host families, and they say we need to find them host families somewhere in Germany now, immediately. So at least AFS in Germany is really behind getting all the exchange students to families. And I can only imagine that other organizations do something in that way as well. So you shouldn't be too worried about that, I think. Because if you pressure yourself to stay in that host family, even though it really hurts you, that's not going to be beneficial. And at some point, even because you stay in that family, which you don't like and they don't like you, and it just doesn't work, that can get you sent home, because then you might get like actually psychological problems. Like you can become depressed or something like that. And just weird behavior, you can actually feel like from the psychological problems, you can have physical problems. You can get really sick and stuff like that, which is why staying in a toxic environment won't help you. And this is what causes you to go home. Not just the part of, oh, I don't like them, they don't like me, they talk to my organization and get me sent home. That's a problem that can occur as well, but that's not the biggest problem. So keep that in mind, because this point looks really controversial because you get sent home of being scared to send home in a way. But you see what I mean? If you're scared that changing your host family results in you going home, then that will get you sent home. So don't be scared. It sounds kind of weird. I understand that as well, but that's the only good way I can explain it. If you have any better way to explain it, send me an email and I'll explain it in the next episode. But okay, now let's go to this second point. That's people thinking after like 3 months that they have not had friends yet, that it already means you're doing it wrong, you can't stay there, nobody likes you, and you want to go home. And that is really a problem that actually occurs. Like, it's hard for me to put it into words, but people think after 3 or 4 months, oh my god, I don't have friends, I want to go home now. And they tell their organizations, I really need to go home. They maybe even make up like that they're so homesick, or just really pressure their organization into sending them home because they haven't found friends and they don't feel comfortable and they just want to leave. And for that, I can only tell you, if you have a problem like that with you being there for a while now, 3-4 months, and you don't have problems, you don't have problems would be great. You don't have friends. I mean, it's not a fast process that you find friends. I mean, you should maybe know that from home. It doesn't come overnight. And especially real friends, not just someone you talk to once or twice in a month. Having someone you can open up to, and having someone that stays awake all night if you have a problem to talk to you. Like that kind of friend. It takes time to find such a person. And why shouldn't it take that much time or even longer in a foreign country? Because you have different backgrounds, different cultures. So the understanding and the communication between you is going to be more difficult. So take your time. Usually it takes at least half a year to find actual friends. For me, I think it took even longer because I was a person that was very open and around. So I had a huge amount of, not friends, but it weren't really real friends. It were and I'm sorry if anyone hears that, but lots of people that I met were people that I met at games and at like football games and the bleachers, and we would hang out and have fun and maybe go eat ice cream, but they weren't really friends which I would open up to if I had problems. That were only a few, and that happened kind of late during my exchange. But I still had a great time. So don't think that if you haven't found friends super fast that nobody in that culture likes you and that you just don't fit together. No. It just takes its time. Keep that in your mind. Okay, that should be it for the second point. Let's get into the third problem I saw. And now that is actually a big problem, and it is kind of in the first two problems and also in the other problems. It's like the meta problem of meta problems. That's eating the problems into yourself. I don't know if you say that in English, but you say it in German, so I don't know. And what I mean with that is not asking for help and just keeping all the bad energy inside yourself. So if you have a problem, then just smile over it and not let anyone know. Don't talk about it. Just lock it up in a chamber in your heart and never let it out. That's not the way to go in an exchange. And that can, again, get you like physically and psychologically sick. And that will not be beneficial at all. Because you do not need to do everything on your own. You do not need to solve your problems on your own. There are persons in your organization. There are other exchange students. You might even have found friends yet. Maybe not in the first 3 months, but later. And trust me, there will be problems that you want to eat by yourself. But there will be friends, probably. There is, and usually in most organizations, a liaison person or someone of your organization that is there only for you and to help you with your problems. Go to them. If you need help, ask for it. Why would you just try to do everything on your own? I mean, yes, your exchange student is your exchange year is your experience, and you often have to solve the problems, but you don't have to do it alone. Part of solving the problem is getting helped and accepting that sometimes you need help and that you need to be able to accept that help. So do accept it and do solve the problems together with others who might have more experience, or listen to my podcast. Send me an email if you have any questions or any problems, and I can refer you to other people or make an episode about it or stuff like that. So get your help. That is really important. Don't try to do it all alone, because that can, again, be really bad for your exchange, and that can get you sent home because nobody knows what's wrong with you. You're just sick and tired of everything. You're sad all the time, and you don't enjoy your year. You just feel pain every day you wake up because there are those problems inside you which you haven't solved and you can't solve alone. So find your help. Talk to people. Talking and communicating is so important. That's the first step. If you have a problem, talk about it. Even write it down. You need to get other points of view, other perspectives on your problem in order to solve it. So write it down, talk to someone about it, make a song about it, I don't know, but don't keep it in yourself. Don't just lock it up in a chamber and not let it out. That's not the way to go. Okay, that should be it for the third part. So now let's go for the fourth problem which I found. And that's a more problem of the more Western nations, of people that go to more Western nations. And that's when you're bored or when you're homesick, just retreating to Netflix or any other streaming site and just watching in your native language, probably just watching videos and series. And that's probably the most stupid thing you can do while you're on your exchange. I mean, you're there to make contacts, to meet new people, to just have more impressions of your exchange. You're there to learn about the culture. So when you're homesick, don't treat that with retreating yourself from society. That's the opposite of what you should do. If you're homesick, if you're bored, you should get out there. You should talk to others. You should make new experiences. You should make memories. You just should make conversations with other people from your host culture and your host country. And that's so important. Even Snapchat people and have kind of conversations over Snapchat, but don't just retreat to being in your room watching Netflix. That's not good. I mean, what should be the benefit from it? If you think about it, how do you, in your exchange, you want to learn something about the new culture, how do you benefit from watching Netflix? You don't. But I see a lot of exchange students doing that because they're homesick and they don't want to be homesick, so they distract themselves with Netflix. But that doesn't work. It really doesn't. If you have that problem, then you should probably think about stop watching Netflix and talking to people, making contacts, because those will also keep you from not being homesick or bored anymore. Because if you look at Netflix or any streaming site, I just say Netflix because it's the biggest one. I don't want to actually say something bad about Netflix, so I don't know. You can also insert Hulu or Amazon Prime, Google Now, whatever. If you just think of any streaming site as a drug, you have a problem, so you take the drug to distract yourself from the problem. Once you stop distracting yourself, the problem is going to come back and you'll have to distract yourself again. So you'll have to watch more of those streaming services, which is why it doesn't work. But if you make friends, if you find people to hang out with, if you make lasting memories, these problems won't come back. And as soon as they do, you can counter that and keep them from coming back, which you cannot with the streaming website or the streaming service. So think about that when you watch Netflix. Why are you doing that? And is it beneficial? Are you just doing it because you have a free hour, nobody's in the house, and it's, I don't know, in the evening so nobody can hang out? Well, that's okay. But if you're doing it because you're homesick and don't want to be homesick, or if you're doing it during the day because school is out, well, that's not a smart thing to do. But I don't want to hold any more rants over streaming sites, so I want to move on to the fifth point. And that's being overwhelmed by all the responsibilities. So you come to a new culture and you may be seen as a young child, but also as an adult at the same time. Like for me it was that I again had to say every time where I was, which I didn't have to do it in Germany. Like in Germany, I would say, yeah, I'm gonna go on a walk, and my parents were like, okay, and I could come back whenever I wanted. In my host country in the US, I said, I'm gonna go on a walk. They said, where are you going and when are you back? So I had to have that more of a controlling environment, and the new responsibility was maybe not to be safe or to choose a good path, but to know which path I'm going to choose and how long it takes before, and being able to report that. And then not meeting someone and talking to them and being home late. I mean, that happened, and that was not a good smart move of me to do. So these are problems which some people come across. And you should be you should be prepared for it, and you shouldn't whine around like, oh no, it's so much responsibility. I got to do so many things which I hadn't to do at home, which I didn't have to do at home. Yeah, I mean, you're going to a different country to have a different experience. Of course, it's going to be different than at home. I mean, what else are you going to learn from it? So, yeah, these responsibilities are not just bad as well. Like, you can actually learn things from them and get different habits. Like, another thing that happened to me, in Germany, I would never carry a wallet around because I basically had no money, and my parents' ethics of money was, we don't give you pocket money, but if you need anything, we'll pay it for you. And I mean, I don't know if that's a good or bad policy, but it worked for me. So I wouldn't carry a wallet with me. But in the US, my parents said, okay, you have your own money. If you want something, you'll need your wallet. We're not going to give you any money in advance that you can pay back or anything. And of course, I was in the habit of not carrying a wallet around with me. So I would just, not have my wallet with me. We were in a store. I was like, oh, I really like that item. And they were like, do you have your wallet? Of course I didn't. So I asked them, yeah, can you borrow me some money? And they said, no, we can't. You got to bring your wallet. And that's how I learned the hard way that I gotta have my wallet with me. And now my wallet is always in my left pocket. And I never even put it out my pants other than to pay something. And even though I still don't have to carry it around with me in Germany because we're back to me not having pocket money and my parents paying everything for me, I still carry my wallet around with me. So yeah, that's a responsibility I had to take, and I learned from it, and it became a habit which I still value right now, and I think it's really cool because now if I get to money, like on a birthday, or if I find money on the street, like it sometimes happens, you find a few dollars on the street or in the woods, then you can put it in your wallet and know where it is and carry it around with you and be like, oh my god, I have $2. But yeah, anyway, let's get away from the trash talk. Responsibilities that you may encounter can be overwhelming and they can be a lot, but don't whine about them and don't think like you're a slave. Like, I had to wash my own clothes as well, which I wouldn't have to do in Germany, but hey, now I know how to use a dryer, which I didn't at home because we don't have dryers. But at home I learned ironing. Like, if I was an American teen coming to my family, my parents would teach me how to iron. So if that's a problem for you, then maybe think about if going to on an exchange is that much of a good decision. But anyway, let's move on. The sixth problem which I encountered is that the others don't give you a chance, and it's not your problem because all the others are putting you down all the time and not valuing you as the great exchange student. What I can say there is a great quote. Well, maybe it's you, Linda. Blaming it on others is not an excuse because you are new to this environment and you have to adapt. And especially with volunteers, that is so vital because the volunteers of your organizations are so vital. So don't feel like because the culture is different that they're not giving you a chance and be mad at them and not talking to them or whatever. Because it's possible that it's just a cultural difference and you'll have to adapt to that. I mean, you're there to learn that new culture again, as I said earlier. So why would you just say that everyone hates you and it's their fault that you're not having a good time? Because often it's not. I think you kind of get the point. So the other problem which I already talked about, I think it was problem 2 or 3, that had to kind of do with you having to adapt to a new culture. So it sounds hard, but that is the way it is, and that's the way to go. So I don't want to touch on that anymore, and we'll go to the 7th problem. And that's a problem for English native speakers. Because if you're an English native speaker and go to a country where they, especially in Europe, where they learn English in school, you won't learn the language because everyone talks to you in English. So what you need to do is to tell the people to talk in their native language to you because you want to learn it. And if they talk to you in English, then say and speak that language. Like if you are British and go to Germany and they speak English to you, no, answer them in German all the time and ask them in German to talk German to you. That's how you get them to actually change. And the policy which I like is 1 month you speak with the people there, or the people there with you speak English, and after that 1 month, no more English. That's what I did with the exchange student in my class. We have a girl there. She was really good in English, and we were talking at English in the first month because she was really bad in German because she had it for like 2 months in her home country. And I said, okay, we're going to talk English for 1 month. You can use it to ask me for German translations. And after that, I'm not going to talk English to you anymore. And after that month, she was the one telling me to not talk English to her anymore because I would sometimes fall back into it. And she understood that talking German is so vital. So yeah, that's a problem, especially for people who are good at English, which is why. you should kind of keep that in the back of your mind if you are a good English speaker going to a country where they speak English as well. Okay, now that's another problem that kind of goes into the adapting thing, and that's just the inability to understand that you need to adapt. Like, people sometimes are like, yeah, this was me and they didn't like me, they didn't understand who I was, and they didn't value me, I just hated it there, I had to go. Well, again, maybe it's you, Linda, and maybe you need to adapt. Like, yes, you need to be yourself and preserve your personality, not change for everyone, but still, you're going to a different culture, you're there to learn new ways, so try it out, adapt it. And you don't have to adapt everything, but at least something. Show that you're interested. And that's what's gonna make people be super okay with you having your personal touch. Nobody wants you to be completely different. Like, when I went to the USA, of course, in the US they wouldn't. Oh my god, I almost ripped my headset down. Well, anyway, in the US they don't swear, or they're not as blunt as we Germans are. Like, we say what's on our mind straight out, and if you're not okay with it, then that's your problem. That's the German way to go, and that's not what the Americans were used to. And it was okay if I did that. Some would even like admire me for being so blunt and saying whatever I wanted to. But that's only possible because I adapted in other ways. Like, I don't know, I can't give any example right now of where I was super adapting, but I was okay with all the stuff happening in school. I adapted to not to just the social habits. I took them up. They saw that I was actually interested in learning about their culture. I asked them. I wasn't judging them or telling that my culture is so much better. And if you show interest in the other culture, it will also be okay for you to be a little bit more yourself than just you being yourself and just pushing everything new away from you. Okay, I mean, I've talked about that a lot, so let's move on to the 9th problem. And that's really a problem which I don't really get, and that's a problem for exchange students that go home like in the first month, and that's just not liking the food or not being able to eat it. And I mean, if you are Western culture and go to Asia where they eat way different food than we do in Western Europe or Northern America, then yeah, it's going to be different. But if you're like, oh my god, I cannot eat here at all, you can have like 1 or 2 meals that you can force yourself to swallow down. I mean, that's not really a problem that should get you sent home, but I saw that on the internet, like, people actually had that problem. So yeah, I can't really understand it. And I mean, after some time you'll get used to it and you'll be able to eat what they're eating, at least most of that food. So yeah, try it out, and don't think after 2 weeks that the food is so poisonous and that you can't eat it, so you need to go home. That's just wrong. But yeah, let's move on to the 10th problems. I have 11 in total, so 2 more. That's just being overwhelmed with leaving people at home and trying to stay in really close touch with them. And like being on Instagram, Facebook all the time, texting, or any text program, just texting with your friends in your host country. And I've talked about that a lot in other episodes, so I want to keep that short, but that's also a problem. Like, people try to live with two lives, and that won't work. You'll have to decide. And some people decide on choosing their old life over their temporary life for 1 year. But I mean, you paid a lot of money to be able to have that second life for 1 year, so why not live it? It just doesn't work to live in 2 countries and 2 lives at once. It doesn't work. So don't try to make it work. Of course, you can still stay in touch, but not all the time, and you cannot keep up all the social involvement that you have had for this 1 year, and it's gonna be okay. I already did episodes on that. If you want me to do another one, send me an email and tell me that you want to hear it, so I can know that you want to hear it and I can follow your wish. But okay, let's get to the 11th problem, the last one. And that's people not following the rules. If there are rules, they're there for a reason, and they will be enforced. So do not use any drugs, no alcohol or anything. If it is forbidden by your organization or by the country, don't do it. Again, you paid a lot of money for that experience and for that opportunity, so why throw it away? It makes no sense to me how people can break the rules. It's not so important to be on every party and to consume all the drugs and to drink so much alcohol. You can do that in your home country too, and it won't be as expensive because you don't have to pay the 10 grands to do it in a different country. So, yeah, I mean, I just don't understand it, and I already talked about that a lot. Yes, it's important to keep your eyes open, your ears open, and your heart open, but be responsible. Yeah, be responsible. That's all I can say. You can get in real trouble, and it's gonna be expensive, so be responsible. Alright, that should be the main problems which I heard out of the videos that I watched. So if there are any other problems you want me to go in on, or you want to hear about, as I already said, send me an email at theforeignerpodcast@gmail.com. Everything small, one word. theforeignerpodcast@gmail.com. And now I want to get into the quote of the episode and the item of the episode. So here we go real quick. This is a quote by Lance Armstrong. He said, "Pain is temporary, quitting lasts forever." And this is a quite powerful yet dangerous quote from an exchange student perspective. Because it means that you should try what you can do to not be sent home early, because the pain will go by, but the memories will still be there, and they are so important for you. But it doesn't mean that if it just doesn't work out in your exchange, that you should suffer for 1 year, for 10 months, just to not go home because you're hoping for that last day to be so great. No, but keep in mind that it was expensive, it is a great opportunity, and the pain which you might be feeling in December or in January, it will go by. But if you quit then, you will not have the chance of all the other great months and all the other great opportunities. So stay strong. And now the item of the episode is a wallet. And I mean, that's kind of a link to my wallet anecdote, because the wallet is like a central item of my exchange now for me, because if my wallet is a part of my exchange because I learned how to use it and to use it all the time through that exchange. So I put in a wallet on Amazon for you, which I really liked because it's really small, and especially in countries like the US, they don't have those big leather wallets like we have in Germany. So I think that wallet looks pretty cool, and I put it in the description on my website. And yeah, so check it out, and yeah, buy it if you feel like you should have a wallet for your exchange as well. So thank you very much for listening to this episode, and as always, I just want to remind you that it would be super cool if you could hit that like button, show my podcast to other friends, and help me grow my audience. And also go on my website, comment, show it to others, and you can sign up to my newsletter, The Foreigner Podcast Monthly, to get my free ebook. I wrote an ebook, The 5 Biggest Exchange Student Itches Scratched, where I took 5 big problems that are different from the 11 I talked about today, and I explain them, and kind of as I did today, I give solutions and give tools that you can do to solve those problems if you have them. So I want to thank you very much for listening to this episode again, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.